Hey everyone, it's Juvie, and this video is going to be about a very popular topic as of right now, and that is representation at E3 and just how everything seems to be problematic no matter how much everyone is trying to make representation equal, and even though that there is a conscious effort that is completely noticeable and somewhat in your face, Anita Sarkeesian and many other people still want to be angry. So let's just explain. Before you guys continue with the video, if anyone's even watching this, I do seriously want to apologize for the terrible editing quality you're about to experience, the redundancies in my argument that I don't fix until the end, and for just the terrible sensitivity of this headset while you listen to me breathe very heavily in between my long words. And I do appreciate if you cut me some slack, at least for the first few videos that I make, because I do feel like my creative outlet is kind of limited at this point due to my limited amount of money and funds to spend on certain editing things. And I do already state this again at the end of the video, but I wanted to throw it in here after I added at the end because it didn't kind of make sense to put at the end of the video to apologize for the editing quality you just went through. So, um, I hope to see you guys in another video, and I hope to see you guys at the end of this video. So, thank you. So I don't know about anyone else, but I'm assuming that Anita Sarkeesian and anyone else who wants to bitch about video games gets on everyone's nerves all the time because it's very annoying. First off, because I don't believe that Anita Sarkeesian actually is passionate about video games, nor are most of the people slash women, they're not all women, but a lot of them are, that are complaining about representation. I don't feel that they have a genuine interest in video games and care about representation in video games because they want to play as a female character, but just because they want something to get angry about and they want something to bait people who are willing to listen to what they're saying and give them money, which that's for a different topic. But the main issue right now is that everything has to be a problem no matter if there is a very specific noticeable effort to make video games more catered towards both genders, including a slight increase to how many games have a main female protagonist. Now, no matter how much I don't like Anita Sarkeesian, she did have some good information that was very useful for making my reaction slash opinion on the whole gender equality representation in video games. So I did use her website and her data and her graphs, but I did double check a lot of the things that were very important to my side of the argument just to make sure that her stuff was correct. But for visual representation in my video, I did use her graphs. So take that with what you will. And before I get into the meat of this video, I really do think it's important to give some background information and background statistics of previous years of E3, just so I can get my point across of how ridiculous she is acting and how an actual effort has been made visibly in the statistics that she's provided for us. So, to start off, in 2015, there were 76 games revealed at E3. You know, good chunk of games, right? 9% of those were with a lead female protagonist. 32% of those were with a main male lead protagonist. And 46% of those games had a protagonist or a character you could play as that you could choose either male or female. So 7 of the 76 games were female, 24 of the 76 games were male, and 35 of the 76 games were either. And then the rest was no answer, which whatever that means, I'm assuming it just means games where you don't play as a specific protagonist or games where you play as like a robot who doesn't necessarily have a gender. So moving on from 2015, we have 2016, where 3% of the games at E3 were female protagonists, 41% were lead male protagonists, and 49% were either, where you could choose male or female. And there were 59 games in total, so 2 of those were female, 24 of those were male, and 29 of those were either. Which, obviously, reading this, yes, there was a significant dip not only in the total amount of games that were released in this year, however, in the total amount of games where there was a lead female protagonist. But I have some speculation on why that is later on. 2017, we have 7% of the games were a female protagonist, 26 were male, and 52% were either, where 7% is 8, 29 is the 26% of male, and 58 games were either, which is the 52%, and there were a total of 109 games released at E3 in 2017. And then moving on to the big issue and the main focal point of what this video is about is 2018, where 8% of the 118 games were female, 24% of the 118 games were male, and 50% of the 118 games were either. And there was a new genre slash categorization that they added this year in her graphs, which was ambiguous, which I did do a little bit of research, and the one game that I was thinking was this category pertaining to was Tunic, where it's very uncertain as to what gender your protagonist slash the character you're playing as is. So that's what the ambiguous means, which was 5%, which I think was 2 games. So 9 of those 118 games were a female protagonist, 29 of those were a male protagonist, 59 of those were you could choose either. So in 2018, there is a definitive increase in the percentage of games where you can choose either. And there is a definitive increase in the amount of games where you could play as a female, which that might only be one, but first off, there is progress. And second off, there isn't too much of an increase in the games from last year where there is a male protagonist. So what's my whole point in giving all of these statistics? Well, I feel like it's important to analyze what these statistics could mean, because instead of actually looking at them in a general sense, Anita Sarkeesian and anyone who just wants to go along with what she says because they want to argue and want to disagree and don't want to think for themselves, probably just look at it and be like, yeah, they just don't want to give females any more representation. Well, the unexplainable drop from 2015 to 2016, that I honestly have nothing for that one. That is kind of weird. There was also a significant drop in just the total amount of games, which definitely was responsible for the drop in just overall games. But the percentage was still quite low for female protagonists. And when you look back to 2015, where there was 9% of the games that had a female protagonist, I'm assuming that those were one-time games and not repeated series. So a lot of the male and female protagonist games that come out in years coming after, previous E3s, they're continuations or new games where you're still playing as the same protagonist. And definitely there were only 2 games that were actually repeated in 2016 from 2015 that were a female protagonist, and they were sequels. So that's where they came from, and there were no new games that came out with a female protagonist. And obviously at this time, we didn't have as much of a public outcry and a social justice outcry for equal representation, and no one was really paying it so much attention as they are in 2018 and 17, but especially, the current year, 18. And they bettered themselves. These gaming companies wanted to have a positive public, eye looking at them, and they wanted to say, hey, we're going to make some games and we're going to have main female protagonists, and not only we're going to have main female protagonists, we're going to up the amount of games in general and make them have a choice between either male or female so no one feels left out, which is a very good thing. For already established storylines, I do think it is important to keep your protagonist the same if it is considered a sequel. But then for new games coming out, I really don't feel that there should be any reason why you can't just make it either, because you appeal to everyone and you can't argue if everything is completely equal. Well, you can, but we'll get to that later. Now, with a topic like video games, where the overwhelming audience of people who just generally play video games and who are generally passionate about video games is predominantly male. So if I'm being honest, I understand why you have to cater more to your specific and larger audience while still also giving stuff to the other, parts of the community, because I'm not saying that girls don't play video games, because they most definitely do, and I play with several people who are females that play video games all the time, and in fact, they're very good at them and love them just as much as I do, if not more. But, but, you can't be angry when there is an effort that is being placed in your favor, no matter how tiny it is, you can't just expect E3 2018 to go from 2017, where we had, what, 8 games with a female protagonist, and then you go to 2018, and then we have 26. Because like, with video games in general, you don't just have an influx of brand new games that either A, they just increase a female protagonist or even have a protagonist in the first place, or B, take a continuation slash a sequel of an old game and then switch the protagonist around and change their gender and change their identity and literally everything, and then just, you know, spice things up because they want to cater to the people who are complaining about it, which is a very small minority of the entire community. And it's very annoying, to say the least, to them and people who love video games in general and don't really care. I think it's also important to address what the reasoning for this argument is, instead of just saying, hey, I want to bitch because I want to bitch. It's because that everyone who plays video games, according to Anita Sarkeesian, is playing it because they want to identify with the protagonist and they want to put themselves in the place of the protagonist, and they want to mirror themselves after what this character is doing and want to use them as a role model. Now, while there probably are some people who do that, myself included, I really wouldn't say that I identify with the video game characters I'm playing as, unless it's like a meme where, they added Daisy to Smash Bros. And I'm like, yes, girl, my queen's in the game. I'm about to slay. She's literally me. Like, what's up, hookers? I'm coming in. No, it's more along the lines of, I just like playing the game for the game. I appreciate the gameplay. I appreciate the graphics. I appreciate the world and the story building. And I could honestly care less if the character I'm playing as is a male or a female if I'm forced into that category. Because if it's a game where you don't get to choose your gender, I obviously don't really have a preference as to what I'm going to play unless I'm given the choice. Because there is a definitive reason why a certain character is given their gender. Because either A, they are a woman who's going into, some weird situation and they are considered the underdog, or they considered someone who isn't meant to be doing something that they're doing in this situation, aka a game not released this year but last year, Rise of the Tomb Raider. That was such a good game, and when you're playing as Lara Croft, you put yourself in her position and you're playing from the perspective that you're just a person in her situation, not a woman in her situation. I don't understand why that's such an issue, and I feel like it's very toxic to what's going on, because it's going to give people an incentive, in fact, not only to just shoehorn things in that aren't important, such as gender, but also shoehorn other random things in that break the story building process and kind of just don't make sense, whether it be canonically, lore wise, or some things along just like the general sense of the game and the feel that you get while playing it. I know what I just said kind of contradicts my previous statement, where I said that I don't really personally identify with the characters that I'm playing as, which in general is true, but some games really speak to certain people, aka myself and just, anyone else who has different genres of games that they like or that really, get them on an emotional level. And when you put yourself in a position and you immerse yourself and you relate yourself to a character or you put yourself in their place, it should just be as shallow as, I agree, or I, immerse myself or identify whatever it is you're doing with this character on a surface level just because of what their character is, not because of some underlying trait like sexuality, gender, race, etc. Because for some people, even including myself in this one, it's a bonus if it's something you like extra identify with. However, it's not like I can't see myself identifying with this person just because of something like that. Because when those things aren't present, it doesn't make it less immersive for me. But when they do add those things, it makes it more, if you can get what I'm saying. Like, nothing really makes a character less immersive for me, but there are things that make it more immersive, but not everything can cater to me, and not everything can cater to everyone else. And you can't just make all video games cater to every single specific person, because everyone has different preferences, everyone has different things they identify with, and it's very difficult to make every game perfect in everyone else's eyes because that's just not going to happen. And even if every game was perfect in Anita Sarkeesian's mind, it still wouldn't be good enough for her, which is the main point of this, is that no one is ever happy. No one is ever satisfied. And you just have to be happy with what you have because there is positive progress going towards what we want, what you want, what everyone needs, and it's all going to turn out good. You're on an upwards slope. You are on an upwards incline. Like you're going to get there. You're going to get to a point where I bet that you are going to have to try really hard for something to complain about. And that's a good thing because progress doesn't happen overnight and you can't expect it to because when you can see that society is bettering themselves and society is trying to include everyone and society is trying to be accepting and just make everyone happy, especially when you can have something like this that can speak to so many people, like video games, that is an amazing thing. And you constantly complaining about what the problems are instead of looking at the pros and the progress that the industry itself is making and the people are making, you really take away the fun from everyone else and you really just turn everything into this battle of hate and this battle of arguments instead of just being happy for the beautiful things that you're being given in life and the beautiful things that these companies are spending their time and money on. Whatever their reasoning is for it, if they just want money, if they really enjoy when their audience likes their games, it's still a really shitty thing to do for you to always shit talk it instead of be happy and just celebrate what we have. So honestly, that's really all I got right now. If you can take away my main message of the video, I know I have problems wording things correctly and wording them in a way where I have a finale for what I'm going for or my overall statement. So if it wasn't clear what my overall statement is, I'd like to, reiterate that now. I just want everyone to be happy. And I understand that maybe some people have certain things that they're extremely sensitive about. Some people have certain things that mean so much more to them than they would to me or to someone else. But you're going to get something that you can be happy with eventually. And you have to make the best of what you have now because you can't just go through life thinking that everything has to be perfect for you. Otherwise, it's just automatically bad. Because there are good things and there's great things. And maybe there's no great things for you right now, but there's definitely good things. You can find something. And you can't discredit these people and these companies and these games and just make it out to be this horrible argument where there can never be everyone satisfied. It always has to be our side was satisfied before, and now it has to be your turn, or it has to be our turn now because you were satisfied before. You just have to make the best of what you have, and I can guarantee you, you can find something out there that speaks to you on a deeper level than it speaks to someone else, and it'll make your life so much better. And you just have to namaste, okay? Namaste. Just chillax. You can't always be causing arguments, especially you, Anita, because I know what your motives are. I don't speak for you, so I can't accuse you of doing anything, but I can almost guarantee you don't care about video games. I can almost guarantee that you only care about this for something to complain about because you know it's the popular opinion right now and you want to get your money. Because I remember, something I saw on the internet, probably was a video, and you started some sort of donation program. I don't know if it was a GoFundMe or whatever, but your goal was $25,000, and your reward for these people giving you $25,000 was to set up a Discord server for them to talk about bad things in video games that they don't like. So not only are you giving a reward to people for wanting to complain, but you're also getting $25,000 to set up a Discord server, which to me is shady, but we can do a little bit more on how shady you are in a different video. And that's really all I have to say at this point. Just be happy, love everyone. You're on an upwards slope. I know that kind of sounds wrong to what I'm trying to say because it's hard to get up slopes, but you know what I'm saying. It's an incline. We're going up, okay? Like it's good. And you're going to get there, and everything's going to be great. Everyone needs to be happy, and just play video games. Enjoy them, because not everyone's going to enjoy them for the rest of your life. Some people grow out of them, and while you have them, be happy with what you have. So, on to the end of this video, I want to say that, yes, this is my first video. Probably is going to be a terrible editing quality. I don't have too much software to work with. I don't really have a lot of, money to be spending on editing quality software, and my goal for a YouTube channel is just to express my opinion and to have a creative outlet and to maybe speak to other people who agree with me, and I'd like to have nice arguments, civil arguments, might I add. And another thing, I know I have a really sensitive headset, and I'm sorry that you have to hear me every time I'm on a rant or like talking very loud and going in between what I'm saying, but this is all I have. If it bothers you, that's completely understandable. You don't have to watch this. Most people aren't probably going to watch this in the first place because they don't want to listen to me rant for 17 minutes on something that they probably already agree with. But if you made it this far, I thank you for watching this video. If you have any constructive criticism or any ideas for software I can use, anything to make my videos better that's either cheap or free, I am totally down for it, and I really enjoy all the constructive criticism you guys give me, and just the fact that you made it this far in the video, if you did, is honestly amazing, so thank you, and this is Juvie signing out.